Email writing netiquette, a tutorial. Writing is just another form of communication. Writing emails in one's native language is easier to fathom, but when we apply that same logic or rule to another language, then understanding the basic essentials of that culture will assist in the writing of the email. However, a standard set of netiquette can now also be found freely on internet, and some links have been provided for further research at the end of this presentation. This presentation will, however, outline the ground theory in an easy-to-follow guide, but should always be used at the discretion of the reader, who is more apt to know their own form of communicating with colleagues or such. Let's begin with the basics. The first thing we need to do is to select an addressee, the person or persons or company that will be receiving the email. Then we need to define the subject, something that's not too long, but a title that will give a clear meaning as to what is going to be included within the email. We need to use a proper salutatory greeting such as Dear Mr. Peter Smith or Dear Mr. Smith, Dear Joan, Hi Sam, etc., depending on the formality or informality of the relationship. We will decide which of these forms to use. Use a clear and concise language that is structured properly. Appropriate terms that relate to the topic, the use of tables or point form for a list of details, paragraphs that follow a logic. The use of thank you is an important diplomatic gesture and can be used at the beginning of an email just as effectively as at the end of an email message. Closing remarks will always include like a follow-up mention and the signature of the sender. A digital or printed signature would include the full name, job title, company, department, etc. One of the first things is defining the addressee or the recipient. When you are ready to create your email, one of the first and foremost actions is to choose the designated recipient of the email. In today's hectic business atmosphere, in open office surroundings, it is one of the items we leave to the automatic fill-in by the email program. But all too often, there are misnomers in a group of contacts, especially when the email program has been set up by the company and includes all relative personnel in every single department across the board and sometimes even overseas. Hence, it is very easy to have either similar names and surnames or even identical names that may have a suffix to differentiate them. Therefore, before quickly passing on to the subject of the email, make sure the addressee or recipient of the email is the right person or the right company. The next thing you need to do is define the subject. The subject at times can be complex and create confusion, so it is important to create a proper, succinct subject title that leaves nothing to the imagination, avoiding misinterpretation of the importance of that particular message. Most of us read the subject in the inbox list prior to opening the email itself. In order to understand, or immediately judge, if you will, if the email needs our attention now or it can wait. The waiting is subjective to many factors, as is the importance of that particular email. This is one of the reasons that the subject of the email should be clear and not overly long, because sometimes it can get lost or not actually be seen in the inbox view. A good rule to remember is short and sweet. The use of a proper greeting is very important and shows a respect for the recipient, person or persons or company. A diplomatic approach in writing is always a sign of good manners and proper understanding of the limitations of the written word in business communications. By its nature, any form of communication within a business will always be considered formal and cold, as it is mostly used for exchange of work-related matters. The use of Dear Mr. Smith, Dear Peter, Hi Susan will strictly depend on the formality or informality of the work relationship. You must follow this with a comma and one return carriage, leaving a line space to begin the first entry with a capital letter at the beginning of the paragraph. Structure in the writing. The structure in the writing comes down to the related motive for the communication. So if the form of communication is like a story to unfold, then the format should be as follows: an introduction of the topic or subject at hand. Paragraphs, it could be any number of paragraphs, will create the body of the topic. Conclusion paragraph will arrive at the summation of the topic or material or content of the email. The format is logic. Therefore, it will be necessary to open the topic with the reason for the email, then go into the purpose of the communications, such as details requested, required, etc. Elaborate on the information or details, then arrive at the finality of the email. Don't hesitate to use tables, bullet lists, etc. where required. Remember, carriage returns by pressing the Enter key to separate every single paragraph. No need to create a tab indent as is used in letters or writing of documents, but capitals at the beginning of every paragraph are important, as are all nouns in English which carry exactly the same rule of being capital letter. The English language writing is used for business communications is clear and concise. This means that the sentence structure should comprise shorter phrases and full terms, avoiding the short forms of verbs such as I've. Better to use I have. Nowadays, the most frequently used email programs contain spell checks for US or UK English, and more often seen today is also a handy thesaurus, which you can use to control the usage of using correct synonyms. But if your email program does not include this tool, don't panic, as there are many document writing programs that are normally included with basic computer program packages that do. So make use of these great tools. Writing emails is a daily activity for most business people and is carried out with quick gestures, understandably so in today's hectic business world. However, stopping to think and reread before clicking on the send button should be a common practice. The indispensable thank you. Thank you either at the beginning of an email for the received prior communication, requesting of information, etc., is just as important as it can be at the end of an email when used as a compliment in lieu of a follow-up. The simple gesture of saying thank you, whether it is warranted for a service, etc., is, however, a diplomatic signal of courtesy and is always welcome. It shows your good manners in acknowledging the existence of the other person or persons as a human counterpart in the business communication. The forms and expressions using thank you can be found in many online English guides. However, the simple common forms are always the better alternative. Closing remark and the sender. The closing remark, including the invitation to respond by way of an expectation of a return reply, the likes of "I look forward to hearing from you," etc., is a part inciting a response by way of email within a suitable time limit for business interactions. Obviously, it is by no means an obligation to respond, which will always be the prerogative of the recipient, that may choose either to reply or not. The closing remark is followed by the signature of the sender, be it in digital form or simply typed, is obligatory and should also include details of the company, department, etc. The disclaimer would then follow at the bottom of part of the email and is normally set up by the company admin office for legal waivers. So let's sum up at what we've looked at. First point, remember to check the recipient email address. Add a short and clear subject. A salutary greeting and or courteous thank you. The body of the message, separated by line spacing, which also makes it very easy on the eyes. Include a closing remark and or another courteous thank you. The signature or details of the sender. Make sure to check your spelling, grammar, reread for logic and flow, maintain a diplomatic pattern of thought. I've added some links for further reading. I hope you enjoy them as much as I do. This has been a tutorial for business English courses held by Pegasus One in Italy. The tutorial has been prepared by Mrs Nives Torresi for use in business English courses. Thank you for listening.